Welcome to the deep dive. We're not just skimming the surface today. We're really plunging into some dense info to pull out those essential nuggets you need.
Hmm.
And today, we're doing a deep dive using, well, a pretty unique source, the actual practice questions and explanations for the D-PV-DY-A-00 PowerVault exam.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach.
Now, you might be thinking, exam questions,
Right.
really? But honestly, this isn't about just passing a test.
Not at all.
Our mission here is to extract the really crucial practical stuff about managing PowerVault ME5 systems. You know, the insights that save you time, prevent those big
And
headaches.
help you actually understand what's going on under the hood.
Exactly.
Wow.
We're talking storage provisioning, data protection, performance features, managing alerts, getting log files, using SuportAssist, even handling upgrades and expansion.
And it's amazing how these specific scenario-based questions, they actually unlock these fundamental principles of enterprise storage.
Right.
It's like finding these little aha moments, surprising facts, key distinctions that you might miss otherwise. We'll see how tiny details can really hit off major problems.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the beginning. So you've got a new PowerVault ME5. You're setting it up, trying to get it talking to your servers.
The first hurdle.
Yeah. That first critical step is identifying your hosts in PowerVault Manager so you can map volumes. What's the essential bit of info you absolutely need for that host?
Okay, so it's not the OS version or the host name, though those are useful elsewhere. For mapping, it boils down to the IQN.
That's the ISCSI qualified name.
Right, for ISCSI. Or, if you're using fiber channel, it's the WWPN, the worldwide port name.
And why is that so critical?
Well, it might seem small, but it's totally foundational. Think of it like a unique digital fingerprint for that specific host on the SAN, the storage area network.
Uh-huh.
Without that precise IQN or WWPN, the PowerVault just has no way of knowing which server is allowed to access which volume.
So you get it wrong, the server sees nothing.
Exactly. Immediate roadblock. It's that unique handshake that allows everything else to happen.
Okay, so you get the hosts talking. The next big thing for any admin is keeping the system up to date and resilient. Let's talk firmware updates. Always a bit stressful.
Can be, yeah.
What's the absolute non-negotiable condition you must meet before you hit activate on a controller firmware update for an ME5?
The system must be in a redundant controller configuration, period.
And why is that so strict?
It's all about availability. During the update, each controller has to restart, one after the other.
Right.
If you only had one controller, that restart means everything stops. Your storage goes offline.
Ouch. Complete service disruption.
Precisely. So mandating redundancy is Dell's way of ensuring failover happens smoothly. It prevents downtime during, pretty essential maintenance, keeps things running.
Makes sense. And speaking of keeping things running and talking to each other, let's pivot to remote replication.
Okay, DR scenarios.
Yeah, mirroring data between two ME5s across different sites. For that to work, for creating that replication pair, what are the two key requirements?
Okay, two main things. First, both PowerVault systems absolutely must be running the exact same firmware version.
Like speaking the same language.
Exactly, down to the dialect. Mismatched firmware, no go. Second, you need at least one fiber channel, or ISCSI port, configured and ready on both systems.
So, same firmware and configured ports on both ends.
Yep, if either of those isn't met, the connection just won't establish. It's like trying to call someone with no phone line connected. Simple checks, but often the first stumbling block.
All right. Let's shift gears now. We've talked setup, connections. Let's get to the core. Protecting the data itself and knowing what's happening when things go wrong.
The usual stuff.
We hear about RAID all the time, but there's this newer thing, ADPT. If you choose ADPT as the RAID type for a disk group, what two key features just happen automatically?
ADAPT it's a really smart evolution. When you pick it, two big things kick in. First, parity data gets distributed across all the disks in the group.
Not just dedicated parity drives.
Right. And second, and this is a huge benefit, you get significantly faster rebuild performance compared to traditional RAID.
Faster rebuilds.
Now,
That sounds good. How does that work?
think about that awful feeling when a drive fails in, say, an old RAID 5,
Mm-hmm.
and you're looking at a day-long rebuild, just hoping nothing else breaks.
Yeah, been there.
8ADT speeds that up dramatically because it uses the power of all the remaining drives in the group to reconstruct the data, not just writing to a single hot spare. It's a massive boost for resilience and just getting back to normal faster.
Okay, that's a significant difference. But even with smart protection like ADPT, drives can still fail.
Hardware happens.
So When you see a disk group in PowerVault Manager showing that dreaded needs attention status,
Mhm.
what's usually the main reason behind that warning?
That status is basically the PowerVault yelling for help. The most common urgent reason is pretty direct. One or more drives in that specific group have either failed completely or are somehow missing.
So it's serious.
Oh yeah, it's not just a suggestion. It means your redundancy is compromised, maybe performance is suffering, or you're potentially risking data loss.
Hmm.
It's a critical alert saying, hey, admin, look here now and fix this hardware issue.
And if you are looking into a problem like that, maybe troubleshooting something weird, there's an action you can take. Manually setting a disk group to degraded? What's the purpose of doing that?
That's a specific troubleshooting tactic. It's like putting that disk group in quarantine.
Okay.
The point of setting it to degraded manually is to deliberately isolate it. It prevents any further I/O input-output operations from hitting that group.
Why would you want to stop I/O?
Well, you're trying to diagnose a problem, right?
Oh.
Stopping the I/O prevents potentially corrupting more data or making the underlying issue worse while you investigate. It gives you a stable, kind of paused environment to figure out what's actually going on within that group.
Gotcha. Like stopping the bleeding while you figure out the injury.
Exactly. It's a controlled measure for investigation.
Okay, let's pivot again. We've covered setup, protection, troubleshooting. Now the day-to-day management, keeping an eye on performance, getting alerts, and using the built-in support.
The ongoing vigilance.
Right. First up, performance data. You need to see what the system's been up to historically, maybe for analysis.
Mhm.
Where do you go in PowerVault Manager to export that performance data?
That's pretty straightforward. You'll find it right under the performance section, and then there's an export option.
Performance, then export. Simple enough.
Yeah, and it's really useful. You can download all that historical data, IOPS, throughput, latency for offline review, deep dive troubleshooting, capacity planning, long-term trend analysis.
Like the system's flight recorder.
Kind of, yeah. It's your window into how the system is really behaving over time, not just a snapshot. Helps you spot bottlenecks or predict future needs.
So knowing the performance is one thing, but you can't stare at the dashboard all day. You need notifications when something's wrong.
Absolutely critical.
How do you actually configure PowerVault Manager to send out alert emails? What are the steps?
This is your early warning system setup. You navigate to settings, then find alerts.
Settings, alerts, okay.
And in there, you need to configure your SMTP server details. That's your outgoing mail server. And then obviously add the email addresses of who should receive the alerts.
So SMTP server plus recipient list.
Right. Setting this up is vital. It ensures you get automated notifications for critical events, hardware failures, configuration issues, whatever the system flags. You get that heads up automatically.
Prevents small problems from becoming fires because you didn't know.
Exactly. It's your digital pager keeping you informed.
And speaking of automated help, Dell has something built in for that, right? What's the component in the ME5 that handles automatic case creation and sending telemetry back to Dell?
That would be SuportAssist.
SuportAssist, okay.
Yeah, its whole purpose is to streamline the support experience. When you enable it, the PowerVault can automatically send diagnostic info and system telemetry straight to Dell.
So Dell might know about a problem before I do.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
It can often identify issues and even automatically open a support case for you. It just simplifies the whole process, gets you to a resolution faster, and frankly makes life easier when things do go sideways.
All right, one last area, the physical side. Let's look at the PowerVault Manager's hardware view. You're in the data center, looking at the array. What practical visual things can you do from that view?
The hardware view is really your guide for physical interaction. Two key things it lets you do. First, you can blink the LEDs on specific drives.
Ah, the Find Me light.
Exactly. Saves you pulling the wrong drive out of a bay full of identical ones. Second, it gives you a clear visual overview of the health and usage status of each drive slot.
So blinky lights and status indicators.
Pretty much. It's important to note these are visual and physical identification tools. You wouldn't use the hardware view to, say, rename a disk group that's logical or power cycle a controller that's elsewhere. This is about finding and seeing the physical components.
So here's a final thought for you listening. As you think about managing complex systems, whether it's PowerVault or something else, what other critical details, maybe hidden in documentation, fine print, or just the logic of how things work, do you think are most vital to master?
Good question.
The ones that, once you truly get them, suddenly prevent a whole bunch of future problems. We really encourage you to keep doing your own deep dives, finding those hidden gems that make you truly well-informed.